Where's my glass of wine? I can't play it without a glass of Arietta here.
This is right. This is right. This is true.
So what is the story here? What are we tasting?
Well, today we're in Napa Valley, trying the wines of Arietta with Mr. Fritz Hatton, and this is the new release of the wines from 07, from the White Keys, the full production of what he makes.
Shall we have at it?
Absolutely.
Let's have it.
All right, let's start with the one white wine made by Arietta. It's called Arietta White Wine on the White Keys. How about that for ladies first?
No problem. I live with Peter. I'm quite used to it.
Okay, we're taking these out of the cellar and we're tasting them, all the wines at right from the cellar, and the white wine we prefer to taste at that temperature because it's a pretty opulent wine and it's much more expressive if it's not too cold. So these are all at about, at this point, 60 degrees.
Absolutely. Wow, no.
That's Mozart.
Mozart.
He's very much part of the Arietta family.
Oh,
Mozart. We have a guest today.
Very nice. Well, the nose on it's lovely. Oh.
Thank you. It's a blend of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillion.
Okay.
And it is barrel fermented. And here's another member of the Arietta team. This is Hattie Hatton.
Hello, Hattie.
She likes to, you like to smell the wine, but you don't taste too much of it yet. So it's a Sauvignon Blanc, Hillside Sauvignon Blanc from Sonoma Mountain, and Old Vine Semillion from Hudson Vineyards in Carneros on the Napa side. So it's actually a Sonoma Napa wine. It's the only one we make that is not all Napa grapes.
Okay.
And
It's great bouquet to it. Really good.
if you smell it, it's, yes, you'll see it's pretty opulent. It's pretty rich. We wanted to create a wine that has kind of that bit of the edginess of Sauvignon Blanc because my wife Karen, partner in the brand, loves Sauvignon Blanc as I do, and we love to be made to salivate with the first wine of the night.
Right.
Sauvignon Blanc does that for you.
And certainly this one does very
It's got
well.
even more of a roundness though, I feel like.
Yes.
It really has a
It's a wine that's got a lot of bright acid, at the same time it's rounded out. It's got a lot of texture to it for Sauv Blanc, which I wouldn't expect. Is that because of Semillion or?
Well, yes, there are three reasons. One is the barrel fermentation, which is a very slow fermentation process. Another reason is the fact that the Sauvignon Blanc is from a hillside site, so that adds additional intensity. The Semillon are old vines, for Napa at least, 30-year-old vines, and the barrel regimen includes about 25% new oak too. Okay. So that gives the wine structure.
Right.
And so that it's very voluminous in the mouth. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
Wine with a big finish, so it can handle a wide range of foods. A pretty spicy food. Yeah. We like to drink it with artichokes even. And you know, artichoke is a famous enemy of wine, according to the textbooks. But this is rich enough to ride over the bitterness of the choke, so it's really nice. Versatile wine.
Really nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful wine. Before we get to the reds, if you could just for a moment tell us where the name Arietta came from.
Well, it's an interesting story about the birth of the brand. It came about originally when I was introduced to John Kongsgaard, who's a celebrated Napa winemaker and a great classical music lover, as I am.
Okay.
And it was in the course of doing the Napa Valley Wine Auction in 1992, which was the first auction I did here for the Napa Valley Vintners, and I've done them ever since. But because of my love for classical music, the chairman of the event decided that she better find someone for me to meet who also liked classical music as much as I did. So I was introduced to the Kongsgaards, John and Maggie Kongsgaard, and we became immediately fast friends. And so we spent a lot of time together, listening to music, making music. I play the piano, and they run the chamber music series in Napa Valley. We had wonderful times drinking wine, listening to music, making music, and after several years, when John was going out on his own, he called and said, well, what about making some red wine together? And I said, well, why why not?
Right, right.
What are we talking about here? He said, well, I can snitch some grapes at 6 in the morning, so you gotta let me know now. And I said, snitch some grapes? Are you gonna steal some grapes? No. Actually, we have to pay for them. It's time-honored tradition. So the first experimental barrel was the 1995 vintage of Cabernet Franc, which was the H Block on the Hudson Vineyards.
Wonderful.
And then, of course, we had to come up with a name for the brand. So much discussion. My then fiancée and soon-to-be wife Karen sensibly said, look in your music books. That's where you're going to find the name. And sure enough, I had my Beethoven Urtext piano sonatas along, and I threw open the second volume, and it fell open to the Arietta movement of the last
cool.
Beethoven piano sonata, Opus 111. And I looked down after a year talking about names, and I thought, I think that's it. And so I wrote it down on the back of the envelope. This was our 5th dinner arguing about names for the brand. Number 25, Arietta. So, of course, through the dinners, we're drinking wine. No, that's not good. No, couldn't be. And finally, we get to Arietta. And there's 10 seconds of silence. And then unanimous agreement that that was the name for the brand. So that's how it happened.
That's a beautiful story. Oh.
So then we thought, well, that needs to be expressed on the label. So a great friend of ours who's a leading Beethoven scholar sent us the facsimile manuscript of that Arietta piano sonata from the Berlin Library, and we gave it to the label designer, sort of told him what we wanted to do, and he came back with the Arietta label. And this is the original Arietta label. Alright, so in the left glass, or the glass we just prepared, we'll pour Arietta Quartet 2007. So Quartet, of course, the musical name, and with Miss Libby Hatton. Miss Libby Hatton, you want to be introduced? Come on. This is another member of the Arietta team, Libby Hatton, who is the label designer, inspirer for this new label this year. Clearly, drew the instruments of the string quartet as no grown-up could ever draw.
Oh my word,
and
really?
then we polished it up, and there it is, beautiful Arietta Quartet label. So, of course, the tie into the wine is 4 grape varieties. Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, and a little bit of Petite Verdot.
Very nice.
So those are the grape varieties. We blend this, we have about 15 Bordeaux varietal blocks we work with. So after we create the original and master, thank you Libby, master wines, the H Block and the Cabernet and the Variation, we make the best possible blend from the remaining grapes, and with fabulous sources. We're using those sources still, like Lee Hudson, Dave Abreu,
those are
your vineyards.
Those are big names.
Yes, well they are, but it's all about getting really great grapes. It's the most important thing.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so let's taste the quartet. We're great believers of blending. I think for the Bordeaux varietals at least, it's hard not to be able to improve a wine with the addition of a second or possibly third grape variety.
Right.
Sure, they're 100%, beautiful 100% Cabernets, but I think more often than not they can be made even more interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And this is a much blended one. In fact, this wine is about half Merlot, 30% Cabernet Sauvignon, 15 or so percent Cabernet Franc, and 3 or 4% Petite Verdot.
Pure.
Nice.
Did you use Petite Verdot as like a blackening agent, or is it more like it offers like particular flavors in it that you like?
It offers particular flavors. Really, we don't need it as a blackening agent or darkening agent. It tends to be quite dark, but we get a very quite dark and rich juice from all of our blocks. It tends to add a certain amount of structure to the wine, and there's kind of a slight black olive component that it can provide. It sort of deepens
Yeah.
the wine. It's really, if you can taste depth.
Yes. Oh, yeah,
Somehow,
absolutely. Yeah.
Petite Verdot seems to add that. And it's the kind of grape where a little dabble do you. You can change wine quite dramatically with the addition of just 1 or 2%
Wow.
Petite Verdot.
This is a great wine. I like, and like you're saying, you know, the depth there, the structure there, and with all the different varietals sort of working together. At the end, the finish, it's very pronounced. Like so by the way, this is what I'm talking about, sort of finish. And I don't know if that's because of the Verdot or what, but it's beautifully blended. Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, you've got like a beautiful level of tannin, and it's dry and it's whatnot, and then you've got this acid that picks it back up, and so yeah, it's a great wine.
It's interesting you mentioned acidity. We are big believers in acidity. Wine really has to refresh, and the acidity is what refreshes the palate. If you don't refresh the palate, you're not interested in taking the next sip.
Right.
It's sort of, you know, it's kind of gummy and big and over fruity perhaps, and
Right.
sometimes, you know, overripe. We do our, you know, absolutely everything we can to avoid overripeness.
Yeah.
You know, you take it, you want it fully ripe, but you don't want it to overripe. But the acidity is really important, and we, the Arietta family, the Hatton family, tend to drink wine really just when we're eating at dinner. And so it's very important to have the acidity, because that's what really makes the wine go well.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's lovely.
Quite
It's
nice.
wonderful.
Okay, so now in the new glass, or glass on the right, we have Arietta Cabernet Sauvignon, 2007. This is the fifth vintage we've made this wine. And as we always do, we blend the wine with, in this case, 2 other varietals. Cabernet Franc, and a pretty good whack Cabernet Franc in this, about 16%.
Oh, wow.
And several percent Petite Verdot.
Okay. So, when you smell it, when you taste it, what are you picking up? What are you...
That was one of my
Well, certain people who are known and well-known bloggers say something. Cherries!
Right.
See, and now me being
But this is,
not,
actually, I would say, this is boysenberry and cassis, and a touch of olive, perhaps, from the Petite
really
Verdot.
olive, yeah.
And a little bit
Yeah.
of spice character. I don't know if you say Asian spice.
Yes. Yep,
I'm not
I was thinking
particularly
a little
good
bit
at
of teriyaki, sort of something, I don't know, or
You
some
know,
sort of a...
What's the chocolate producer, Vogue or something, that makes the hot pepper with dark chocolate?
Yeah.
They sell it in the market.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that in there. You know, it's like that 62% dark chocolate with hot, like Thai pepper or something like that.
Or a little bit of red hot.
Red hot, yeah. Like there's something, you know, going on in there that I pick up in this.
Something very distinct. You know what, I also
It's very
get at the
good.
same time, one of my most favorite smells is when you pick up a book, a very well-loved book, and you're flipping through the pages and
And you can
smell that
smell
you
the
get there.
book.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
got
that.
like that
That's
cool, preserved something there. So that's a beautiful.
Old library book smell. Love it.
Well,
It's wonderful.
This is a new library book. It's 0.07.
Yeah.
Give it 30 years.
Right.
But you have the vibrancy, you know, that's one of our mantra words, vibrancy. I think that's, you know, you're picking up that, you know, some acidity, but that you say touch of, you know, red pepper maybe, a little bit of the liveliness
Right.
on the palate is so important. There's a lot of depth to the wine, but that, you know, the vibrancy, almost the French would say slight nervosité, nervousness.
Right. Well, and the finish too. I mean, with everything that we've tasted here, the finish is, it's quite pronounced in each one. This one, it seems to be a bit drier, getting a bit more tannin, but again, it's something like that just dissipates. That just, you know, asks you to please have some more. I'd like you to have some more, kind of a finish.
This certainly helps with the depletions.
Yes, ask Peter about our cellar at home. Yeah, it's been asking for more way too much.
I think another interesting aspect of this wine is well, you talked about tannins. The tannins are incredibly silky. they're quite dense,
yes,
but very silky, and you can enjoy the wine at this stage. But the tannins are going to provide evolution. They're going to, the tannin is a form of acidity. Of course, it's going to give life. It's going to allow the wine to age and evolve. And that's really what we want to see in red wines. We want to see an evolution.
Sure.
All right. So in the right glass, we will do ladies first this time.
Merci beaucoup.
Arietta Quartet. Here is H Block. 2007. So Arietta Red Wine H Block Hudson Vineyards is the full, long name of the wine, but we refer to it simply as H Block. Arietta H Block.
Is it Lee Hudson? Is that correct?
Yes, the H Block is the Cabernet Franc block around which this wine was built originally. In fact, the H Block is the whole raison d'etre for the brand. That was where we snitched our first barrel of grapes in the fall of 1995.
Beautiful.
But John Koensgaard, our original partner, first winemaker, believed that it was one of the greatest sites in Napa. And in fact, the lore is that the famous enologist and consultant, Michel Rolland, took a barrel sample of the H Block, the 1990 vintage, when it was going into Newton Wines. It was the first barrel sample he took back to show his colleagues in Bordeaux that he thought really great wine could be made in Napa. Oh. So that's part of the lore of this wine. And we considered initially just making a pure H Block, 100% Cabernet Franc wine. But we thought, no, the addition of Merlot will provide additional interest, complexity, maybe a little roundness on the palate. But this Franc block is so rich, provides wine or juice that's so rich and dense that you don't really need the other varietal to provide tactility or on the palate or richness. But the Merlot just provides an additional component of blueberry. Of course, Cabernet Franc is known for its very forward aromas. There's a touch of herb in Cabernet Franc.
Absolutely.
And bright red fruit, typically. The Merlot adds kind of a blueberry component and kind of a little bit of roundness to the wine. So this wine is typically 50 to 60% Cabernet Franc and the balance Merlot.
Okay.
So we always keep the wine at least 50% Cabernet Franc, and that's meant to be the defining element of the wine.
Right.
Well, folks, this is the closest thing you're going to get to Cheval Blanc in California.
I'm glad you said that. I don't want Pierre Berton phoning me.
There it is.
Let's pour the other Hudson Vineyards co-fermented wine, and it's interesting that both the H Block and this wine, the Variation One, Arietta Variation One, are co-fermented, which means that we take the two grape varietals and we literally throw the grapes in the same tank, and they ferment together, macerate together, and are barreled down together. So you kind of have to know what you're doing, because obviously you can't separate them or adjust the core blend very easily once that's done. But as winemakers will tell you, and of course we have Andy Erickson making the wines now, brilliant winemaker, not the winemaker, but certainly been there.
Sure.
Talking to him all the time.
Absolutely.
If you blend the varietals at the very outset, if you ferment them together, you'll actually get more complex phenolic chains, because the yeast, the natural yeast, the variety, is a different strain for each block, each variety, and they sort of cross-pollinate, or they cross-breed, if you will, in the tank. So the yeast that ride on the Merlot skins attack both the Merlot must and the Cabernet Franc must, and vice versa. And with the Variation One, which is an even more, really a radical blend, you're talking about a marriage of opposites here with Merlot, you know, generous, plump, well-behaved, and Syrah was wild and gamey and peppery, and like, you know, the well-hung duck.
It's kind of like you've got like the wallflower who doesn't like to be noticed, and then you have the one who's all out there in front and, you know,
Right.
look at me.
Right, more jagged tannins,
Right.
not violets. Sort of wanting to be tamed, if you will. So joining those two varietals very early on really does make a difference.
Now, what's the percentage then?
Typically about half and half.
Half and half,
for
okay.
the Syrah and the Merlot variation.
And this is H Block as well, or the Hudson Vineyard rather.
This is all fruit from Hudson Vineyard. In both cases. So these are the Hudson wines. Lee Hudson, one of the two best known growers in the Napa side of Carneros, along with Larry Hyde.
Yeah.
Our original and primary grower for Arietta, and a fabulously interesting guy. Very passionate about what he does. He planted his vineyard starting about 30 years ago.
Wow.
So all the grapes from both these two wines, the original sort of the master wines, if you will, of Arietta come from.
Wow.
I have to say that I love the nose on this. Peter, I'm interested to see, what do you get on the nose?
Of the Syrah.
Yes, of the
Syrah,
the variation one. Hurry up and say it, because I want to say mine. On the nose.
I think the wine is silenced him.
Yes, it is silence.
This is a rarity.
Well, you do get quite a bit of pepper there in the with the Syrah component.
I get like a cross between like a copper penny and then brown sugar reduction. Like you've got a lot of different things going on at the same time, but it's not like they're fighting each other. It's just like this beautiful marriage of two very unlikely things, you know, all together that just is. I haven't even tasted the thing. I love it.
Well, we call the varieties, which are quite different. It's sort of it's a marriage of opposites. It's sort of like Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn.
And wouldn't that be something?
Starring together. All the tension at first, and finally arriving in some sort of harmony.
Right.
However temporary, perhaps, at the end.
But beautiful for the moment.
Well, and exciting too. You know,
That's
dynamic.
Right. That's right.
Very, very dynamic. But still together.
Oh, on the palate, it's just as impressive.
Thank you for inviting me to pour the Arietta wines for you, which Martha's Vineyard in Grand Rapids has a unique access to in the state of Michigan.
Yes.
We're all Michiganders here.
That's right. That's right. We're all good company.
Yes, it's great. If you look for any of these wines, you can just actually call the winery direct.
Or go online.
And they can send you go online.
www.ariettawine.com.
Yep, absolutely. And just certainly find any of these wines available. I would probably get right on that for the 97. I think that'll sell out quite quickly. They're really
the 07s.
The 07. Man, why do I do that?
I
do that all the time.
Time's
Well,
living.
you're a creature of the past.
Clearly.